Hello developers, welcome back to Octa Coder. In our last session, we took a significant leap forward with our Octa travel app. We explored the concept of lifting up state, dynamically generating form options, and rendering data onto the UI. If you haven't watched that session yet, I highly recommend checking it out. Links are in the description below. Today, we are taking it to the next level. We'll dive deeper into updating the item list and calculating statistic as derived state. Plus, we'll sort the item dynamically. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a fully functional form and that not only collects data but also calculates and updates it in real time. So without further ado, let's get started. In our last session, we learned how to render items onto the UI. For example, let's add 2 iPhone and here we get the items. Let's add some more. You can also delete items by clicking on the cross button. Now we have 3 items. But how do we know if a task is done without deleting it? For that, we need a checkbox to toggle the item status. Let's do that practically, then you'll understand. So let's go here to our item, and before the spam element, let's now add an input type checkbox, save it, let's see, and that we now have checkbox here. So we can actually toggle this one here on and off. It's not functional yet. We need to transform this element into a control element, meaning its value is defined by some state and it has an event handler to listen for changes and update the state accordingly. So let's do that. Value will be given by the item.pack status. So next, we need to add an onChange handler to listen for the change event each time we click on the checkbox. Okay, let's actually specify just an empty function. So here we need function just like we did here on delete item, something similar. So instead of deleting one item, we will simply now update one item so that update happen each time we click on the checkbox. So let's now write a function here. So function handle toggle item, and in order to know which object we actually need to change, we need to pass in the ID. Then set item, then we need to pass in a new array. So depending on the current array, we have our callback function here, and in order to update one of the objects in the array, we will simply loop over the entire items array using the map property, so which will return a new array with the same length of the initial items array. But one of the objects have been updated, so in the iteration each of the elements is called an item. Then here, whenever the item has the ID, that is equal to the ID, which means this is the object that we want to update. Then we create a new object based on the current item. Then we set pack to the opposite of pack. So item.pack, and else for all the other objects, we will simply return the current item. Then add this function here into the packing list. So on toggle item, handle toggle item. So copy this on toggle item and here to the list of prop here on toggle item, and then we pass it into the item itself. So let's do that here. Alright, and finally we receive it here, and so now here we can then replace this empty function with calling on toggle item with the current, so that we know which is the object that we need to change. Alright, that's it. Give it a save. Let's see if it works. So 2 iPhone, 1 Samsung, 1 Pixel, and now as we click here, yeah, beautiful. So our item updates as you see this strike through and unclick, perfect. So it toggles. Let's see it works for this one, and yeah, works for all ones beautifully, updating their status. That's perfect now. So now we will use the idea of derived state in practice. Now we want to calculate our statistics here in the footer as we already displayed here. You have X items on your list and you already pack X%. The number of items can be directly computed from the items array. derived state is perfect for this. So let's define a new variable const num items, but we can simply derive it so we can calculate it based on the items array. So that's simply items.length. Now this num items variable, we actually don't need it right here in the app component, but in the footer component. So let's just cut that from here and paste it here into the footer. Okay, but this footer component don't know anything about what these items is. So we now have another component that needs the item state. So we just pass it down as a prop. Now accept that prop down here in the footer. And so here we can already use that value. So you have num items on your list. So let's see on the app here, and indeed right now it shows you have 0 items. But if I add some items, let's add 2 iPhone, and as soon as we add them, it says you have 1 items, add another one Samsung, and now you have 2 items. Great. So now let's derive for this pack state and percentage how many you packed. Both depends on the items. Okay, so number of pack is simply the items array filtered by the items that are already packed. So item.pack, and so then we can take the length of that one. So here you have already packed numpack variable. Give it a save. Let's see. Yeah, now it becomes 0. And when we check an item as packed and the footer updates. Great. Finally, just the percentage, which should be pretty easy. So const percentage. So that's just number of packed divided by the number of items multiplied by 100, and then let's grab all of that and round it using math.round, and then here we can replace that with percentage. So let's test it out. So when we mark one of them as packed, and yeah, it working perfectly fine. So let's mark all, and now it's 100%. And in that case, whenever we have 100%, I would like to display an entirely different message here. So basically it tells user that they are done. Okay, so let's do that. So for that we need some more conditional rendering. So let's enter our JavaScript mode and say that percentage is equal to 100. Then the message will display you got everything ready to go. Something like that, and you can add emojis here. Okay, and now else. So let's move that here. Now we need a string. So let's use template literal here, and then we need to add $sign here. Do that for all. All right, give it a save and let's check. Okay, so let's mark all item, and great, the footer text also updates perfectly. So let's uncheck and it updates. Great. So if there are no items in the array, then there's no need for calculation because there is no items, it's just 0, right? So what I want to do now here is to show you a good use case of an early return as conditional rendering. So what we are going to do is to say if there is no items.length, then simply return a paragraph, class name, footer, and em tag. Start adding some items to your packing list and some emojis here like rocket. Okay, give it a save and let's test it out. So let's reload the browser, and yeah, perfect. So let's add some items: 2 shirt, 2 pants, 1 charger, 1 towel. So let's check some of them, and it's updating perfectly. Great, this is cool now. Our app is almost complete. In the next session, we'll do some sorting and move these components to separate files. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Happy coding!